I teach a art history class at a local high school, and twice during the semester we go for a walk outside. And these young ladies are all 16, mostly 16 years old, and they're truly shocked by the bugs, the bees, the ants, the architecture, if you will, all sorts of things that are outside their field of studying. They're also shocked, I think, by people, by the poor. They don't know how to react with an individual that is not in their social station in life, if you will. And it always stuns me because at 16 years old, you think you would have observed a lot of life. And in some societies, of course, 16, you were already a soldier marching off to war. I think during the First World War, you had to be 19 to enlist, but many people in the British Empire, certainly after the war began in the following year, there's such devastating losses in 1914, early 15, that they began to take people that looked 19. In some cases, as many as a third of the young soldiers were under that age, so gosh, you really think to yourself the power of observation. And why is it necessary? Well, I think the major reason observation itself is necessary is because of critical thinking. Unless we observe, it's very difficult to believe that we can truly think through a problem or think through a situation, find a way forward in this piece of life that I possess. Gosh, gotta learn to observe. But once again, it is a trained phenomenon. And I've said this before. When I went to a yoga conference in India about 5 years ago, the gurus there said that in his life he wasn't any more special than another human being in his estimation. The only thing he did differently was that he observed. He closely followed the way of natural life, and he closely followed people. He truly listened to people. So how do I develop these powers of observation? Well, I think I learned to focus. Many people say, find a way that you slow down, because we live such busy lives. So how does one do that? Well, I think one way for sure is in the morning, do not look at your phone for the first hour or 2 hours of the day. Forget it. And nothing important is going to happen in the first hour anyhow. And if it does, hey, it would have happened the following day as well. A crisis is always waiting to happen in life, isn't it? And then what begins to happen is that you slowly but surely say to yourself, I'm going to practice silent observation. I'm just going to look at every situation without comment. Keep it to myself. Analyze it, right? So the other day when I went to the gym I go to, I really made a point of studying the people beside me, around me, the actions. And I noticed one thing that kind of startled me. The mirrors that are present in a gym are really looked at by a lot of people. A lot of people really study their bodies. And I think, of course, Leon, this is a gym. People want to improve their bodies. But gosh, I never thought to this extent that the body was so important to so many people, because obviously the body will eventually leave me, won't it? I will transcend someplace, somewhere, without this body. Keep it healthy. This is true at 69 years old. Keep it healthy. Keep it active. Respect it. But realize the body is not the self, ultimately. It's not. And now it's certainly the ego, I think, when the body is dead, the ego is dissipated for sure, but the self continues, whatever that means. And I'm not quite sure what I'm saying, but for sure, this is a Jungian philosophy to a large extent. I must learn to engage all my senses, mustn't I? Really. All my powers of listening and hearing and tasting, touching, right? Whatever it is. And the sixth sense I possess as well, that magical sixth sense that protects me. And I always ask myself in every situation, am I or could I be missing something? And this certainly can be in the conversation with people, because people say such strange things to you, don't they? A woman the other day, who's about my age, told me that she's losing her memory because she's getting old. Now, why is that true? Because she's heard it from other people all the time. My body is slowly breaking down, so my life is not ascendant, it's descendant. This is just an observation that she has, which is untrue, ridiculous. I think we have to also be quiet. We have to learn to listen far more than we talk. I mean, we meet all sorts of people that just will not be quiet. And in a sense, some of them are quite amusing, because fools are great because they like to spin a story. But in that sense, they don't contribute anything to a conversation. And then I think ultimately get out in nature. This last summer, David and I, of course, walked the Camino 900 kilometers, and on day 6, we did a podcast on observation, observing things. And I remember the day, it was extremely hot, and I, for one, had begun to believe that I was actually going to pull this walk off, because on day 6, you've only walked about 150 kilometers, not very far, and you've got 750 to go. Very, very long way yet, but you start to get an inkling that you can actually do it. And then I think, reflect on what you observe. Reflect on it. That notebook's so important. And I think then, finally, in the end, be grateful for what you're allowed to observe in this magical world. The other morning, I was awake at 3 o'clock. I went into the kitchen, and there was an enormous cockroach just beside the sink. And my first inclination was, of course, to strike her and kill her. And then I thought, why should I do such a thing? How is she harming me? And we kind of stood there looking at each other. And then I got, of course, the classical question from Kafka's Metamorphosis. Why am I a man and you're a cockroach when you're a man and I should be the cockroach? Right? A very curious feeling, for sure. Very curious. So, in the end, hone your powers of observation. I think you will find them extremely useful as you develop your gift of observing critical thinking and, of course, time. Your time. And you know what they say? Critical thinking is everything, especially if you're going to hone your powers of observation, and critical thinking is great. Truly great. You take care. God bless. Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. Dave here. Today is June 27th. This is the sixth day on our El Camino journey. Today, the weather has been hot, getting hotter. Our theme for today is observation. So, Leon and I, we woke up early and we decided to go for breakfast before setting out on our El Camino journey for today. We walked to the end of the old town looking for a place to buy breakfast, and we didn't see any. We ran into some pilgrims there, and they said, "Oh, the shop that is open for breakfast is just behind you." So we had to traipse all the way back to the other side, the other end of the street we had been walking down. Somehow, whilst we were talking, we had failed to notice the small shop that was selling pastries and coffee for breakfast. We failed to observe this. Later on, we had, as our journey was coming to a close, we had seen a church on the side of a hill. As we approached, we came to a small intersection in the grass, and a sign read, "To go to the church, turn left, and to go to our destination, Estella, go straight." I suggested to Leon, "Oh, let's just go over here for a minute and see what that church is all about." And we did. When we approached the church, we went around to the side and we saw a metal gate closing the door. We unlatched it and we opened the door and we walked in. And as we looked around, we saw a note left on the altar of the church. I'd just like to take some time to read to you what this note had said. It said, "Dear Pilgrim, congratulations for making it this far. God loves you and wanted you to be here in this moment. Good luck moving forward. Have a safe journey. Love, a stranger." Now, for many people who have walked on this same path, I don't think they were so observant and didn't see the same fork in the road that we did. They did not take the extra 10 minutes to walk up to the church, and they completely missed out on this message that was left by another pilgrim just as us. It's really important to observe and to be focused in life.
Hello, this is Leon. Dave's point about being careful about observing properly. Many years ago, I went to a yoga conference in India, and the guru there said that he wasn't different than any other person. The only difference was that from a very early age, he had been extremely observant at his life and what was going on around him. And if you read the masters, people like Carl Jung, etc., also very wise people, but the same, they haven't really discovered something magical without their powers of observation. So this is the point ultimately. We have to spend time to look around. Today as we were walking, we looked down and there was a whole army of ants, a veritable army of ants crossing the path in front of us. And Dave and I stopped for a moment and stared at the ants. Now, ants are a lot like blood. Their essential mission is to take whatever they find back to the nest to feed the larvae, the eggs, the larvae, which eventually become mature ants, right? So this is the whole process and the necessity of food for the hive. And they work as a team, as a collective. But we would have missed this if we had just been trudging along, because it is a long way between stations on this El Camino. I'm sure Dave has mentioned that it's hard. And today was extremely hot, and it is of course getting hotter. So think to yourself, the next time the next time you go anywhere, look at the bees, the bugs, the ants, other people. We've had some interesting conversations today with other people. Really take time to observe and then write in your notebook for future reference, for sure. Because I think then you'll find that bit by bit, piece by piece, you'll gain greater insight in the world. Back to Dave for a quick moment.
Right. So, as Leon, to sum up what Leon had said, we really do need to be observant in life. Another example is something I noticed one day whilst looking at my cat. I just stared at him for a moment and I was studying the pattern of stripes on his fur. And I noticed that they are indeed symmetrical. Now, this actually does make sense when you think about it, just like humans, their bodies, their faces are relatively symmetrical. It's just the way that the creatures develop. However, most people don't really think about the fact that the stripes on cats or tigers or dogs or whatever are symmetrical. Just another observation, something simple, something quite obvious, but something that most people fail to recognize.
So, your homework for tomorrow is to observe one thing that you probably haven't observed before. Something in nature, perhaps, is by far the best, right? Have a look and then remark to yourself, wow, I've never observed such a thing before. And you take care. God bless.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.